I have delayed this for far too long. You know who's not delaying his announcement for running for president? That's right, Joe Brandon, the current president. He's running for re-election. Oh my God, we were so shocked. Let's take a look.
Now official in writing, right there, also in video, President Biden says he wants to finish the job and wants to beat what he calls MAGA extremism again.
When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are. The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent. That's why I'm running for re-election.
It was exactly 4 years ago today that Biden threw his hat in the ring for 2020 and warned voters then about Donald Trump's rhetoric. Let's go to the White House now. CNN's Arlette Saenz is there. Arlette, we've seen the president on video today. What do we expect from him live and in person?
Well, John, in a little over an hour, President Biden will be holding his first public event.
What the fuck? What are they mowing the lawn of the White House? God damn it. Wait, what's happening back there? The buzzing is like ridiculous.
And since officially rolling out his re-election bid, the president is expected at around 12:30 to speak at a union conference here in Washington.
What do you mean? For people saying like, why is he running? Are you crazy? The incumbent's advantage is dramatic. It's very important. It doesn't matter if he's 700 years old. It's too late. He already won one time when he was old, knowing full well that, like, you know, by the second time he was running, he was going to fucking run again. Giving up the incumbent's advantage and just like having an unknown entity where the Democratic Party's lineup is not exactly strong to begin with is going to be silly from the perspective or from the opinion of the DNC. You know what I mean? It makes total sense. Having someone go up against, like having someone take the mantle from him could have been an option, but instead we went with Kamala fucking Harris as the VP. So good luck with that. Imagine, do you want the Republican Party to like absolutely fucking dominate the field with their dog shit fucking candidates? Because if there's one person who can't beat Donald Trump in a toe-to-toe matchup, it's the charisma black hole, Kamala motherfucking Harris. So not only does she suck, but also on top of that, on top of her personally sucking, the Biden admin also cucked her and put her in charge of like every annoying, awful, you know, make work, fuck right off, piece of shit job. They didn't exactly fucking tailor her VP. They did not exactly tailor her to be the next suitor, to be the runner-up as the vice president, to be the president. So that was awful, absolutely fucking devastating from the DNC side. A lot of people are saying gruesome Newsom. I mean, sure. That, you know, last time we had a fucking California governor become president, it was devastating for the United States of America. His name was Ronald Reagan. Now, but who knows? Who knows? There isn't an option better that can get enough people to agree in the Democratic Party. I don't think that Joe Biden is going to activate the base. He's not going to motivate the base, but who knows? Who knows? If Bernie Sanders runs again, you know where I'm staying. You know, I'm gonna absolutely fucking vote for him illegally and campaign for him and want everybody to vote for him, especially in the primaries. There are people that could be interesting, and some of which are controversial, some of which are not. J.B. Pritzker could be an interesting person to run potentially in the Democratic for the Democratic presidency inevitably down the line. Gretchen Whitmer is another one that's like controversial in this space, but probably could do a decent job. As far as like female candidates goes, I think Big Gretch is, pretty solid. You have Governor Gruesome Gavin Newsom, who doesn't really make a lot of waves nationally. in a negative way. So that's kind of good. Even Donald Trump has said positive things about him, which is like pretty wild. Like he is somehow able to avoid the intense national scrutiny that like prominent Democrats get, partially because he's the governor of California, but they would just be like, oh my God, California is a fucking mess. You want everyone to be California if he ran. The young vote is moving towards Williamson. Yes, dude, totally. Look, I love candidates like Marianne Williamson. I think it's great that she's running. But if you legitimately think that because like TikTok is promoting her a lot, that she's genuinely moving the fucking needle, I don't know what to tell you. You are literally just, wake up, please. Snap the fuck out of it, okay? It is perhaps, it's interesting to see what will happen with like how much TikTok can genuinely shift Democratic politics, but I suspect that you are out of your fucking mind, I think, if you think that she's like just like Chang gangers. Yeah, Yang, you mean, right? The Yang gangers, isn't that what it was called? Like the Yang gang. Not Chang, you fucking weirdo. Or Chan. It's funny because like Chan gang does make sense, not just for Andrew Yang, but for like a litany of other crank candidates that were propped up because they were like 4chan picks, you know what I mean? And they were not nationally prominent, you know what I mean? I think that's a dumb take. Williamson is doing pretty good so far. What metric are you saying Marianne Williamson is doing pretty good so far? Where is this coming from? Have you looked at a singular poll? Like, she has no fucking mainstream media coverage, possibly by design, okay? These people are crazy. There will be no debates. The Biden record, 12 million new jobs, inflation down 50% from its peak, record wage growth, real GDP growth in Q1, still at 2.5% bipartisan infrastructure act, CHIPS and Science Act, Inflation Reduction Act, largest climate investment in U.S. history. Yeah, see, Faustini is actually good for this kind of shit. Let's be real, okay? If we're going to do electoralism for a brief moment and we're going to talk about like elections from the perspective of a two-party political structure where both parties are actually beholden and enslaved by the bourgeois interests, yes, this kind of attitude is actually something that you're going to see a lot on CNN and MSNBC, and there is some truth to it, of course. Obviously, if you are a little bit interested in electoral politics while also simultaneously a leftist person, like a legitimately leftist person, you recognize that Faustini literally just brought up every single talking point that shows how far the Biden agenda has fallen short of the actual promises that it had made, okay? But, he is a neoliberal Democrat at the end of the day, even though he claims that he's not. And neoliberals got a neolib, you know what I mean? Oh, man, it's not. Politics is the art of what's possible, sir. That's why we got to make concessions before we fucking move forward. Notice how this dude did not fucking bring up one of the most tangible and important fucking things that the Biden administration did, which was the abolition of student loan debt relief, the abolition of student loans. Why the fuck would you not bring that up? That is gigantically important. But guess what? One, it's being held up in the courts in some ways. Two, neoliberals don't give a fuck about actual tangible policies that like dramatically change people's lives. And three, okay, the Biden administration is not even pushing for that much. Ending the Afghan war is a big one, but unfortunately that's been sullied by the mainstream media. Liberal mainstream media absolutely did everything they can to shit on him for doing that, saying basically saying, I thought you would be proud of me for not bringing up foreign policy, and I didn't mention student loans because of the courts. No, student loans is important, and as far as foreign policy goes, the Afghan relief withdrawal was actually not bad. What we did after the withdrawal was way worse. Was the Afghan agreement not made before Biden was president? It doesn't matter. The person who had the moral courage to follow through on that was Joseph Robinette Biden, and I will always respect him for that. I don't give a shit what people say. I defended him back then, there are two major policy, there are two major policy moments that I have aggressively defended in the Biden administration. Student loan debt relief was one of them, which they haven't done enough advocacy for some fucking weird reason. Freaks. And two, Afghanistan withdrawal was actually great. Biden, on the other hand, has been very dramatically anti-union, had a tremendous amount of opportunity with the IRA to ensure that like any kind of infrastructure spending or any kind of fucking contracts that we offer to foreign capital or even, companies that want to open up factories here, because we have a shitload of money for renewable energy lined up, climate investments that he was talking about. Those investments could have been conditional. They could have been, hey, like with one easy fucking move, Biden could have said, we're giving you the money faucet. That means you have to have unionized workplaces. Could you imagine? That's how you do. That's politics, right? I mean, that's not everything. That's not immediately fucking turning around and like instituting a communist utopia. That's just like within the boundaries of reason, something that other countries do all the fucking time. He could have done that. He didn't do that. He didn't push for that. Every single legislative agenda item that Joseph Robinette Biden has pushed for, that he claimed he was going to get through, has been eviscerated, shred to fucking bits by the rotating villain within the Democratic Party before it even reaches the other side of the fucking aisle. Kyrsten Sinema and Joseph Manchin have deliberately and successfully made piecemeal out of made mincemeat out of every single fucking thing that the Biden admin has tried to put together, and they got no punishments for it. Kyrsten Sinema even fucked right off after getting the greatest gift of all time, okay, as a Green senator, as like a first-term senator, being allowed to be the signatory and like the crafter of the massive bipartisan infrastructure, massive bipartisan infrastructure legislation, and then fucking right off and turning around and doing this and being like, I'm actually fucking independent now, dog. Like, that is so disrespectful. It's so fucked up. Like, I'm talking about this from the perspective of like someone who I'm putting my Democratic Party hat on for a second to just like make that assessment here. And it is the greatest cucking. It is such an aggressive cucking. Sneeko looks at situations like that. Okay. Sneeko looks at that and goes, oh my God, I wish I was the Democratic Party. I wish I was sitting at the head of the DNC right now because, oh my God, I just got ass fucked by literally the big hulking bull that fucked my wife. Okay. That is what Kyrsten Sinema, okay, the most annoying person on the fucking planet, was able to do to the Democratic Party, okay? A cucking that was so public, a shellacking that was so gross in many respects that, like, Sneeko starts drooling when he thinks about how humiliating that is for the Democratic leadership.
Washington, D.C., as he looks to highlight his ties to the labor community, but it also highlights the strategy of how the president will be deployed in the coming months. Advisors say not to expect the president to be out there on the campaign trail holding these large-style rallies. Instead, they believe that one of his main selling points to the American people will come as he's simply doing the job as president. So he will be speaking at that union event today. He is also, over the course of the next 2 days, hosting the South Korean president here at the White House. A bit later today, Vice President Kamala Harris will be speaking at a reproductive rights rally at a time when abortion has been a mobilizing issue for Democrats. But this all comes as the president is officially rolling out his campaign. The president really trying to draw comparisons to his 2020 launch when he had warned that there is a battle for the soul of the nation. He is saying that that battle is not yet complete and he needs another 4 years in the White House. He is also trying to warn that American freedoms are under siege by what he has described as MAGA extremists. And in that video, he used those images from the January 6th insurrection, as well as highlighted two Republican men, one of which who could be his matchup in a general election come November 2024. Take a look.
You know, around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security.
Here, let's just watch the full fucking ad real quick. I got sidetracked to oblivion.
Freedom. Personal freedom is fundamental to who we are as Americans. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred. That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy. This shouldn't be a red or blue issue. To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it. But you know, around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security that you paid for your entire life while cutting taxes for the very wealthy, dictating what healthcare decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making...
I mean, look, the Republicans have gift wrapped someone who is not going to rock the fucking boat an absolute lock, okay? Everything that the Republicans are doing at the state legislature level is so unimaginably insane that, like, a Democrat that's like, I don't want this to happen, don't you think that's crazy, is just going to look better. So, you know, you can have someone who's old, but at least has, like, run the country, you know what I mean? And no matter how much people try to say, like, the country is fucking terrible, the country's terrible, vibes across the board show Brandon looking good. Now, of course, a lot can change in the next year. The economy could, implode once again. We can have a severe recession, and people start genuinely experiencing the most devastating impacts of that. I've said this before. Donald Trump lost because COVID happened. Donald Trump would have absolutely won if COVID hadn't happened. He could have probably even won if COVID hadn't happened to him directly. Senator Bernie Sanders says he's endorsing Biden for re-election. Yeah, I mean, it's over. It's Jover.
Making it more difficult for you to be able to vote.
I want to bet he didn't even get concessions from him to do this. I mean, he's 7 million years old, dude. Everybody calm down. Stop yelling at Bernie Sanders. Like, let the man fucking rest. Let the man fucking rest and you know, live his remaining days out as he tries to exist on this planet.
When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are. The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent. That's why I'm running for re-election. Because I know America. I know we're good and decent people. I know we're still a country that believes in honesty and respect and treating each other with dignity. That we're a nation where we give hate no safe harbor. We believe that everyone is equal, that everyone should be given a fair shot to succeed in this country.
Thank you for choosing us.
Every generation of Americans has faced a moment when they have to defend democracy. Stand up for our personal freedom. Stand up for the right to vote and our civil rights. And this is our moment.
It's kind of wild that, like, you were president for 4 years. Like, when Donald Trump ran, like, he kept saying we're going to make America great again because he didn't really have a lot of, like, bona fides to point to. It's weird that this ad doesn't show any of the things that Faustini was chirping about in the chat. Like, the least Biden could have done is been like, we gave money back to the children, Jack. They're not crippled by student loan debts. You know what I mean? Like, just point to, like, tangible policies. Like, largest infrastructure spending package of all time, Jack, and we did it bipartisan. Yeah, the only policy that gets any real airtime, yeah, Ryan is right, is voting rights, and it's also the policy he gave up on the fastest. There's a passing mention of abortion rights, of course, without saying abortion rights or even Roe, but no suggestion of what he'll do about that. Presumably, he'll codify Roe, but that's left to the imagination. Zero on what he'll do when it comes to jobs, wages, inflation, union power, healthcare. He's going to fight the MAGAs, though. When's the last time a president won an election on tangible policy? Well, here's what you got to do. There's the defensive strategy, which is like, MAGA Republicans are crazy, Jack, don't you think? Okay. And then there's the offensive shit where you could turn around and be like, this is what we did. It's got to have a bit of both. And he hasn't talked about any of the shit that he has supposedly done.
While cutting taxes for the very wealthy, dictating what healthcare decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love.
Now, as this campaign formally takes shape, the president is facing some challenges, including polling that has shown that the majority of Americans do not believe he should seek a second term, with many saying that some of their concerns relate to the issue of his age. But President Biden and his allies believe that he has a strong record to run on and that ultimately voters will side with him when compared to the Republican alternatives.
Arlette signs for us at the White House. Arlette, as she points out, very interesting. On the campaign video, you see scenes from January 6th, even before you see Joe Biden himself, Sarah.
You can tell where he's going with that. All right. And with Biden's announcement this morning, the 2020 presidential race is entering a new phase. The field beginning to take shape. Let's take stock of who's in and who's out and who still has yet to potentially declare. Here are the candidates we know are running now. On the Republican side, former President Donald Trump, former Governor and Ambassador Nikki Haley, former Governor Asa Hutchinson, conservative radio host Larry Elder, and businessman Vivek Ramaswamy. On the Democratic side, the declareds are obviously the front runner, President Biden. Then there's Robert Kennedy Jr. and Marianne Williamson. Here are the potential candidates we are tracking, all of them Republicans: Mike Pence, Liz Cheney, Chris Christie, and yes, Ron DeSantis still has not declared. There is Kristi Noem, Tim Scott, Chris Sununu, and Glenn Youngkin. So when are they going to end this guessing game one way or the other? Here's Ron DeSantis on that question.
We got a legislative session that we're working on. We got a few more weeks to go with that. We're going to be putting up a lot of wins on the board, and so I'm not going to be making any announcements before that's concluded.
Okay, are you leaning one way or another?
Stay tuned.
All right, so if you pull out your calendar, here's what he's saying. The Florida legislative session ends on May 5th, so he said stay tuned. That might end shortly thereafter. On DeSantis, Mike Pence says he'll decide, quote, well before late June, and in the meantime has been making multiple visits to critical primary states. And Chris Sununu says he will be announcing his decision before the 4th of July. Kate?
Joining us now for more on this is CNN political commentator, former Obama administration official Van Jones. It's good to see you, Van. So we saw that video announcement from President Biden this morning, rolling out officially his reelection campaign. Themes, first word out that you hear from him, freedom. Themes that you see throughout: fighting for abortion rights, threats to democracy through that January 6th imagery, gay rights, voting rights, less check my record, more the fight isn't over. What did you think of it?
Well, you know, one thing about Joe Biden, he has always been underestimated. He was considered a lightweight in the Senate, but you know, he is a winner. And I think it's hard when you've won vice president twice, when you've won the presidency twice, once, to not want to do it again. And so I don't think anybody's surprised that he's running. I think the themes that he's talking about are interesting because this battle about freedom, you hear both sides saying the other side wants to take away your freedom to speech, your freedom for your Second Amendment rights. You know, we're saying that the other side is trying to take away democracy itself. So I do think he's right on target with where a lot of concerns for Americans are. We're concerned about the economy and about our democracy, and I think he's lining up his forces for this fight.
Do you think it's possible when he's been in politics as long as he has, when he's been president then for 4 years, that he can run on something that it's not a referendum, it's the fight yet to be fought?
Look, I think all elections are about tomorrow more than yesterday. I mean, he has done an extraordinary job. I was also very pleased to see how prominent Kamala Harris was in that 30-second. Yeah, I mean, there were people who were wanting him to back away from her, wanting him to throw her overboard, et cetera. I think he's sending a very clear message. They are a team. They got there together. They're going to stay together, and they want to win again together. And by doing that, I think he expands the playing field. He can be at the White House doing what he does. She can be out in the community doing what she does. And together they can, I think they're a double threat already, whereas the other people on the Republican side, they've got to do it all by themselves.
We can put it for our viewers, some of the recent polling, though, that shows the challenges that he does face. It's in some way, shape, or form, which is very clear that even Democrats aren't entirely jazzed about him running for re-election again. What do you think his biggest challenges are, though, Van?
Well, I mean, he's old, or you just can't get away from the fact that he's the oldest president we've ever had. People, unfortunately for him, people remember him when he was a young guy. He's been around for a long time, so people have, they can compare him to who he was 20 years ago, and so, but that said, when he announced 4 years ago, it was a yawn. When he announced 4 years ago, people said, so what? He's too old. He's too out of touch with the progressives. He's too conservative. He's yesterday's man. They said that 4 years ago, and then he destroyed the field, became the nominee, and beat Donald Trump.
I mean, this is like revisionist history. He didn't destroy the field. He basically got Obama to clear the field out for him through backroom deals. Except for, remember, one candidate who never left the race for some reason, Elizabeth fucking Warren. I wonder how that worked out. I wonder why it worked out the way that it did. Half the field quit and endorsed him. He hadn't stepped foot in like half of these Super Tuesday states. Anyway, I'm not going to fucking relitigate it. It's fine.
So I just think, 4 years later, I think we should remember, we didn't think he could pull it off 4 years ago, and look what he's done.
So when you know that he needs to hold independent voters like he did in 2020, just to remind folks what the exit polls from 2020, in order to win election and re-election this time, what then do progressives want to hear from him so they as well are motivated to turn out for Joe Biden once again?
I think the progressives are in a good position because he gave so much to the progressives in the first 2 years when it comes to just, historic legislation, everything from, climate to the CHIPS Act, marriage equality. People forget about that. He did a lot for the progressives in the first 2 years.
This guy was a Maoist. Dude, he did so much for the progressives. Dude, he was so progressive. Joe Brandon. I like the people that wrote Joe Brandon is the FDR of this generation comes Joe Brandon is literally still the FDR of this generation, even if he didn't do any of the things that he promised he was going to do, and was like absolutely eviscerated by his own party every step of the fucking way, and didn't really push for a lot of his agenda or punish any of the people that eviscerated his progressive policy promises. What is this? Çokalak kızım Erdoğan yayında fenalaştı. We'll look at this in a little bit. Let's finish.
Going forward, I think the progressives are going to be answering the call to defend democracy. And I think that's going to be appealing to both progressives and independents. So listen, people always say the same things about Joe Biden. I often say those things, and then I have to eat my words because later on, it turns out he was good for the progressives. I think he will be able to hold on to the moderates going forward because the Republicans are going to be so extreme, and he can probably pull this off. But right now, his numbers are terrible. People are whispering that he's too old. In other words, he's right where he was 4 years ago, being underestimated.
That's why I always love having you on, Van. It's always good to see you. Next time.
Yeah, here's the thing. When the media underestimated him, they were wrong. Now they're literally saying, well, we're underestimated him and we were wrong, so he's actually going to do well. So, which means the negative thing will probably happen once again. It's the same as like the Mad Money. It's the inverse Jim Cramer. The media is always Jim Cramer. Whatever they claim is happening is the opposite. So